We've heard time and time again how important it is for independent artists to retain control of their masters. But what does that look like financially for us? Today we're going to talk about that. Owning your masters is an essential element to obtaining financial freedom. And let's start by looking at the sync license. Now, you can divide the income from a sync license into two halves. The first half is the sync fee, and this sync fee grants the right to synchronize the intellectual property, and the intellectual property is the underlying song, all right? And this is also referred to as a synchronization license. This fee, this sync fee, is allocated and paid to the publisher. It's very important to remember that. 50% of the sync license is paid to the publisher. The other 50% is referred to as the master fee, and this grants the right to use the master recording. This is also referred to as a master license. And this fee is allocated and paid to whoever owns the master recording. So let's say that you have a song that you've written with 3 of your friends, all right? Susie, Bob, and Chris. And you split the songwriting equally, so each of you is credited as a 25% writer on this song. Well, in that case, we're also going to assume that each writer also owns and controls their own publishing. We want to keep this very simple here, all right? So in that case, as songwriters, you each are controlling 25% of the songwriting as well as the publishing, okay? Now that takes care of the songwriting and the publishing splits. So next we have to look at who owns the master recording. Let's say after writing the song, Susie, Bob, and Chris they all go home, and you're stuck, producing the song. Well, maybe you're not stuck doing it. Maybe you really enjoy it. So after writing the song, you spend the next 2 or 3 days in your home studio fully recording and producing it. If that's the case, you own the master recording. You split the songwriting 4 ways, but you own the master recording. Now, if you're saying, well, Michael, I don't, record my own music. I don't have a studio. I hire someone else to do it. That's great. If you are hiring a producer to, produce your songs for you, you're paying them. You're basically acting like a record label. A record label hires engineers and producers to make records for them. And you're basically doing the same thing. You're paying these contractors to make a record for you. And if that's the case, you're paying them, you own the master recording. Whoever pays for the recording owns the master recording. Very important to remember that. So let's look at some scenarios here. In scenario 1, you're going to pitch the song directly to music supervisors. And let's say that a music supervisor, they absolutely love it, and they offer you $1,000 to use it in a show that they're working on. Well, as we just learned, $500 of that is going to be allocated to the publisher via the sync fee. And the other $500 is going to be allocated to the owner of the master recording via the master fee. Now, since you, Susie, Bob, and Chris each own and control your own publishing, this $500 that's allocated to the publisher is going to be split 4 ways. But since you and only you own the master, the $500 allocated for the master fee is going to go straight to you. So if we look at these numbers here, from the $1,000 sync license, you're going to earn $625 in upfront licensing fees. Now you might be saying, well, I don't know about this. I always split everything, 50-50 or evenly among everyone. And that's great. But you also have to understand that this is how the business works. Okay. So while you can split your songwriting and your publishing evenly, the reality is that whoever pays for the master recording owns the master. Let's look at scenario 2. This might become even more clear to you. Let's say you sign the song over to a music library, which is basically acting as your publisher, to represent and administer your song for sync placements. Now, from that $1,000 sync license, because all 4 songwriters agreed to have a music library pitch and fully represent the song, which in that case, the music library is going to be acting as your publisher. This means that the $500 allocated to the sync fee is going to go to them. And as the master owner, you are still collecting the $500 that's allocated to the owner of the master recording. Now, if you'd have just split everything evenly among all your co-writers, even the master licensing fee, you'd be walking away with only $125. But that's really not fair, right? Especially if you did all the work on the song, or if you're the one who invested in and paid for the recording yourself. So this is also why music libraries split the upfront fee 50-50. If you think like, oh, the library is just so nice, they're giving me 50%. That's not the reason why. This is the actual legal reason why. All right, 50% goes to the library because of the synchronization rights that they get being the publisher. 50% comes to you because you own the master. All right. So are you seeing why owning your masters is important? These master license fees, these can add up, okay? Especially when you're generating placements on a very consistent basis. So being able to stay in control of the process from start to finish through recording and producing your own music, it's not only creatively rewarding and fun, but owning the masters. Owning your masters is an essential aspect to creating immediate income through licensing your songs. And my goal here is that you walk away from this with two key lessons. The first is, if you haven't focused on learning how to record and produce your own music, you really should. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of it personally. I enjoy the process. I think recording and producing your own music is a lot of fun. Even more importantly, when you're done, you're the one who owns the master recording. But if that's not for you, if that's not the path that you want to go down, that's perfectly fine. As the individual who pays for the recording, you own the masters. Either path is going to get you to the same end goal, because owning your masters is really essential in order to generate consistent upfront income, which ultimately leads to financial freedom. And we want to do this through sync licensing, right? Not through any other kind of crappy job that we have, but being able to earn upfront sync licensing fees is so important, as well as the royalties, of course. Royalties are always going to come to us as songwriters, but this is why it's so important to own as much of, if not all, of the master as possible. All right. Now, the second lesson that I want you to walk away with is, this is why it's essential to understand how the licensing business works. Because when you learn how the business works, you can actually make the rules work in your favor. And ultimately, always, always, always make it a point to own your masters. All right. So I hope that was inspiring, and I hope you got some clarity from it and some great information from it. And with that being said, I will see you next time.